Professional sports are thrilling, but sometimes the adrenaline comes with a deadly price. From sudden on-field collapses to catastrophic crashes, athletes have faced shocking, heart-stopping tragedies that stunned fans worldwide. These terrifying moments remind us that even the strongest, fastest, and most skilled competitors aren't invincible. If you think modern sports can get intense, wait till you hear about Ray Chapman, the unluckiest man to ever step onto a baseball field. Back in 1920, the game was not the polished, safe first version we see today. It was rough, fast, and honestly a little reckless. Chapman, a shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, walked up to the plate on what seemed like a completely ordinary day. No one in the stadium, not the crowd, not his teammates, not even the pitcher, had any idea they were about to witness one of the darkest moments in sports history. Facing him on the mound was Carl Mays of the New York Yankees, a pitcher known for his unusual submarine-style throws, which already made the ball harder to track. Now, add to that the fact that baseballs back then were often scuffed, dirty, and reused for long stretches, making them even more difficult to see, especially in fading light. The conditions were already stacked against the batter in ways that most people today would find almost unbelievable. So when Mays released a fastball, Chapman likely never saw it coming. The ball struck him directly in the head with a sickening crack that many initially mistook for the sound of bat meeting ball. But there was no swing, no hit, just silence followed by confusion. Chapman collapsed instantly. For a brief moment he was still conscious, which somehow makes the whole situation even more unsettling. He tried to speak and tried to move, but the damage was already catastrophic. He was rushed off the field and taken to the hospital, but there was very little doctors could do with the medical knowledge available at the time. Early the next morning, he died from a skull fracture and severe brain trauma, becoming the only player in Major League Baseball history to lose his life due to an in-game injury. The shock and disbelief spread quickly, not just through the stadium but across the entire country, as fans struggled to process how a routine play had turned into a fatal tragedy. The impact of his death went far beyond that single moment. This was not just a freak accident. It exposed how dangerously unprotected players really were. At the time, helmets were not even considered necessary, and the idea of prioritizing player safety was far less developed than it is today. Chapman's death forced the sport to confront that reality in a serious way. Rules began to change as cleaner baseballs were introduced more frequently, and practices that made the ball harder to see were gradually restricted. While batting helmets would not become standard until much later, this incident planted the seed for those future safety measures. Beyond the rules and reforms, there was also a deeply human tragedy. Chapman was widely respected, known as a dedicated player and a good person, and his sudden death left a lasting emotional mark on teammates, fans, and even his opponent Carl Mays, who reportedly carried the weight of that moment for the rest of his life. Even now, more than a century later, his story stands as a sobering reminder that beneath the excitement of sports, there is always a human cost that cannot be ignored. February 18th, 2001 is a date forever etched in the history of motorsport, a day when the exhilaration of speed collided tragically with the fragility of human life. At the Daytona International Speedway, fans filled the stands of the Daytona 500, witnessing the climax of one of the most prestigious events in stock car racing. Among the competitors was Dale Earnhardt, known as the Intimidator, a driver whose career had been defined by fearless precision, strategic aggression, and an unrelenting drive to dominate the track. Earnhardt's presence on the track was more than that of a competitor. He was a living legend, a symbol of both excellence and toughness in a sport that demands absolute focus and courage. On the final lap of the race, Earnhardt was not vying for first place. His focus was on protecting his teammate Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., who were in contention for victory. What unfolded in the following seconds was a sequence that would shock the world. Contact with other cars caused Earnhardt's vehicle to collide violently with the wall at high speed. To the casual observer, the impact seemed survivable as stock cars are engineered for protection, but the outcome was catastrophic. Earnhardt sustained a fatal basilar skull fracture, and his death was confirmed shortly after. The suddenness of the incident left spectators, commentators, and fellow drivers stunned, unable to comprehend that a man who had seemed untouchable on the track could be claimed so swiftly. The immediate aftermath was a mixture of grief and disbelief. The NASCAR community lost not only a champion, but a figure who embodied the very essence of the sport: daring, resilience, and leadership. Tributes poured in from fans worldwide, acknowledging not only Earnhardt's achievements but also his profound influence on the sport and its culture. Yet the tragedy also served as a critical catalyst for change. NASCAR undertook a comprehensive reassessment of safety protocols. Innovations such as the HANDS device for head and neck support, safer barriers lining the walls, and enhanced seatbelt standards were implemented to prevent similar tragedies. In this sense, Earnhardt's death, while heartbreaking, ultimately saved lives by transforming the approach to driver safety. His passing forced the entire racing world to confront the stark realities of risk, to recognize the human cost of competition, and to prioritize measures that could protect drivers without compromising the intensity and thrill of the sport. The loss was deeply personal for teammates, family, and fans, and it resonated far beyond the confines of the racetrack. Dale Earnhardt's legacy extends far beyond his statistics, championships, or memorable victories. He represents the intersection of courage and vulnerability, the reality that even the most skilled and experienced individuals are not immune to risk. His life and death highlighted the stakes inherent in professional racing, prompting reflection on the balance between competitive drive and human fragility. Today, Earnhardt is remembered not just as a driver who dominated the sport, but as a figure whose tragic passing reshaped NASCAR forever. Fans continue to honor him, not only for his remarkable skill and tenacity, but for the lasting impact he had on safety, culture, and the collective memory of motorsport. The Daytona 500 of 2001 remains a solemn reminder that in a sport defined by speed, precision, and courage, every lap carries a risk, and every legend, no matter how fearless, is human. His story continues to inspire respect for both the sport and the individuals who dedicate their lives to it, reminding everyone that the thrill of competition comes with responsibility, awareness, and the weight of human life. Ice hockey is a sport built on speed, skill, and, let's be honest, a little bit of chaos. You've got players zooming across the ice like caffeinated cheetahs, stick in hand, trying to hit a tiny rubber disc into a net while dodging opponents, the boards, and sometimes even gravity itself. And then there's the other side of hockey, the fights. Yes, those epic slow-motion brawls that somehow feel like a mix of ballet and WWE in full gear. For many players, fighting is a ritual, a way to settle scores, and let's face it, a chance to throw some elbows without getting too many penalty minutes. But for 21-year-old Don Sanderson, a defenseman for the Whitby Dunlops, a senior amateur team in Ontario, one of these fights turned out to be more than just a hockey scrap. It became a life-altering tragic event that still haunts Canadian hockey circles. On a chilly December night in 2008, Don was in a heated match against the Brantford Blast, and as happens in hockey fights, the chaos escalated. Players exchanged punches, skates skidded, and somewhere in the middle of the chaos, Don's helmet came off. Now, helmets are supposed to protect your noggin from the frozen hockey battleground. But when it comes off mid-fight, that's like sending your brain on a free-fall adventure it didn't sign up for. In the scuffle, Don's head slammed into the unforgiving ice, and in an instant, the night turned from competitive to catastrophic. Witnesses said he briefly regained consciousness, blinking and probably wondering what just happened, but the damage was severe. He was rushed to Hamilton General Hospital, where doctors fought to stabilize him, but the brain trauma was extensive. For 3 weeks, Don lay in a coma, a young life suspended between the warmth of a family that loved him and the harsh reality of a brain injury that refused to yield. The hockey community held its collective breath, fans lit candles, and teammates prayed. But sadly, on January 2, 2009, Don Sanderson passed away, leaving a void in the Whitby Dunlops, his family, friends, and anyone who had ever shared a rink with him. His death shocked the Canadian hockey world, and sent ripples through discussions about fighting in hockey, helmet safety, and the risks players take every time they step on the ice. Memorials and tributes poured in. Teammates wore his number, games were paused to honor his memory, and discussions about enforcing helmet rules and safety measures gained renewed urgency. While hockey has always embraced toughness and resilience, Don's story became a sobering reminder that even the rough-and-tumble world of senior amateur hockey can be dangerously unforgiving. People started talking seriously about the role of fights in hockey, asking questions that had been whispered for years. Is it really worth it? Are helmets doing enough? Could this have been prevented? The conversation wasn't just about one fight on one night. It was about the broader culture of a sport where young men risked their heads and bodies in the name of tradition, pride, and adrenaline. Yet, even in tragedy, there's a legacy. Don Sanderson is remembered not just for the horrific way his life ended, but for the passion he had for the game, the energy he brought to the ice, and the reminder he left everyone that life is fragile, even for those who seem invincible with a stick in hand. His story is told in hushed tones in locker rooms, in articles online, and occasionally in highlight reels that now carry a more serious undertone, the silent voice of caution beneath the roar of skates and cheering fans. And while fights may still happen in hockey, Don's name serves as a subtle, persistent reminder. Respect the sport, respect the gear, and remember that no win is worth a life. It's a story that makes you cringe, it makes you think, and maybe it even makes you hug your helmet a little tighter before stepping onto the ice. Hockey will go on. Fast, brutal, and beautiful. But somewhere in the memories of those who knew him, Don Sanderson skates forever. A legend, not for his punches thrown, but for his life and the lessons it left behind. On a warm evening in Lyon, France, the 2003 FIFA Confederations Cup semi-final was in full swing. Fans filled the stadium, flags waved energetically, and the air was thick with anticipation as Cameroon faced off against Colombia. Among the stars on the pitch was Mark-Vivien Foé, the towering Cameroonian midfielder, known for his incredible work rate, imposing presence, and commanding leadership. Foé had become a symbol of strength for his country, a player whose energy and dedication inspired both teammates and fans. He moved across the field with purpose, marking opponents, intercepting passes, and orchestrating plays. The match was tense, the kind that keeps spectators on edge, with every tackle and pass carrying the weight of national pride. And then, almost suddenly, the game's rhythm was shattered. In the 72nd minute, as Cameroon pressed forward, Foé collapsed near the center circle, his body crumpling as though an invisible weight had knocked him down. The stadium erupted in panic and confusion. Teammates rushed to his side, medics sprinted onto the field, and cameras zoomed in on the scene that would haunt football forever. Attempts at CPR, oxygen, and other emergency interventions lasted for 45 agonizing minutes. But despite the valiant efforts of medical staff, Mark-Vivien Foé could not be revived. He was pronounced dead, leaving the football world stunned, grieving, and searching for answers. Foé's death was not just a loss for Cameroon or his club teams, it was a loss for the sport itself, a reminder of the fragility of life even for athletes at the peak of physical fitness. The cause of Foé's sudden collapse was later determined to be hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a hereditary heart condition that can trigger fatal cardiac events, particularly under intense physical stress. This condition often goes unnoticed because it can produce few or no symptoms until tragedy strikes. The revelation underscored the silent dangers athletes can face, and it ignited conversations worldwide about cardiac screening in sports. Foé had no history of drug use or external influence, and his passing was purely due to natural cardiac failure. Yet, despite the scientific clarity, the emotional impact was profound. Fans, teammates, and fellow athletes struggled to comprehend that a man so full of vitality, who seemed indestructible on the pitch, could be struck down in a matter of seconds. The tragedy also highlighted the critical role of emergency preparedness in sports events, pushing governing bodies to improve medical screening and response strategies. Foé's death became a catalyst for change, prompting leagues and federations to invest in better on-field medical equipment, defibrillators, and protocols that might prevent similar tragedies in the future. The aftermath of Mark-Vivien Foé's death was a mixture of grief, tribute, and reflection. Cameroon, despite the heartbreak, continued to the final of the Confederations Cup, honoring their fallen captain with black armbands and solemn ceremonies. Fans around the globe held moments of silence. Stadiums dimmed their lights, and tributes poured in from clubs, teammates, and even rivals. His club number was retired, his memory enshrined in the hearts of supporters, and his story serves as a lasting reminder of the human side of sport. Beyond the statistics, matches, and trophies, the tragedy of Foé reminds us that athletes are human, vulnerable, and irreplaceable. Every tackle, every goal, every moment on the pitch carries weight beyond the scoreboard. Mark-Vivien Foé's life and untimely death left a legacy that transcends football, a testament to courage, dedication, and the fleeting nature of life. Even decades later, his name evokes respect, mourning, and reflection, keeping alive the memory of a player whose impact was felt far beyond the 90 minutes he spent on the field that fateful day. May 1st, 1994, began like any other race weekend at the San Marino Grand Prix with engines roaring, fans cheering, and drivers brimming with anticipation. Among them was Ayrton Senna, one of the most celebrated and daring Formula One drivers in history. Known for his precision, focus, and fearlessness, Senna had already secured 3 world championships and earned a place in the hearts of millions around the world. The weather was normal, the track familiar, and yet motorsport is a realm where even the smallest mistake can have catastrophic consequences. As the race progressed, Senna pushed his car to its limits on the challenging Imola circuit. The high-speed Tamburello corner, a left-hander notorious for its lack of runoff, the car suddenly veered off course and collided with a concrete wall at over 190 miles per hour. In that instant, a life defined by brilliance and daring came to an end. The impact sent shockwaves through the Formula One community, leaving radios silent, spectators frozen, and teams in stunned disbelief. What had been a celebration of speed and skill was transformed into a stark reminder of the mortal risks inherent in the sport. The medical teams acted immediately, rushing to Senna's side and performing emergency interventions while fellow drivers and officials watched in disbelief. Senna sustained fatal head injuries, and despite the rapid response of the medical personnel, he was pronounced dead shortly after reaching the hospital. The weekend had already been overshadowed by tragedy because Roland Ratzenberger, a promising rookie, had died during qualifying the day before. The back-to-back losses left an indelible mark on the racing world and served as a grim reminder that fame, talent, and courage could not shield anyone from the dangers of Formula One. The deaths highlighted weaknesses in both track design and car safety measures and prompted urgent discussions about the need for better protections. Teams and officials were forced to confront the reality that speed without adequate safety precautions could lead to irreversible consequences, and the entire motorsport community began questioning long-standing practices. Senna's accident became the focal point for reflection, analysis, and immediate action, illustrating the fine line between heroism and tragedy that defines high-level racing. The legacy of Ayrton Senna's death has shaped Formula One in profound ways. Tracks were redesigned to reduce high-speed hazards, barriers were reinforced, and cockpit structures were improved to better protect drivers. Safety devices such as the head and neck support system were introduced, becoming mandatory to prevent injuries similar to those that claimed Senna. Crash investigations grew more scientific and detailed, examining every element from tire behavior to car aerodynamics to ensure maximum driver safety. Beyond the technical measures, Senna's passing had a deep cultural and emotional impact, transforming the way fans, drivers, and officials view the sport. He is remembered not only for his extraordinary skill, daring overtakes, and charismatic presence, but also for the sobering reminder that the pursuit of victory carries inherent risks. The events of May 1st, 1994 remain a pivotal moment in motorsport history, representing both a tragic loss and a turning point that led to improved safety standards that protect countless lives today. Senna's memory endures through the lessons learned and the changes made, ensuring that his influence extends far beyond his remarkable achievements on the track and continues to inspire both caution and admiration in the world of Formula One.